Howdy doody ghoulies. We hope you missed us last week because we missed you. It was nice taking a little hiatus, but it feels good to be back with our little coven of misfits. Tonight, I will be coming at you again with a multiple-parter. I'm thinking this one is going to be 2 parts, but we'll see what happens. If you enjoy reading true crime books, I do recommend The Hunt by Ryan Green because he did an excellent job covering this case. And if you're interested, there is a movie based on this case starring Dean Norris, John Cusack, Nicolas Cage, Vanessa Hudgens, and 50 Cent called The Frozen Ground, and it's a decent watch. 2 weeks ago, we said we were going to start talking about current true crimes in our intro, just to spice things up a bit, and we did receive more feedback asking us not to do so than we did people on board with it, so we will be skipping that for the time being. We are going to fit more off weeks into our schedule as well. We're thinking maybe every 5 weeks or so we'll take a week off, but we will do a better job at keeping you guys in the loop and letting you know when our breaks are coming up moving forward. But I think that's all I've got for you at the moment, so if you're ready, I suppose we'll dive in. As always, you're listening to Cheese for Thought, and we hope you keep listening. Good evening, ghoulish gals and gentlemen. Tonight the man we're going to be talking about is Robert Hansen, who is also known as the Butcher Baker, as well as Alaska's most notorious serial killer. Now this is going to be a 2-parter, like I said in the intro, and in this episode we're solely going to be talking about his upbringing and life prior to his move to Alaska. So this episode isn't going to be bad at all, very mild. But please come back next week when we dive into the horrible pain his victims endured at the hands of this monster. Robert Hansen was born in Estherville, Iowa on February 15, 1939, and was the eldest of 2 children to parents Christian and Edna Hansen. Robert's father, Christian, was very strict and often made Robert work long hours at the family-owned bakery as he got older. When Robert was 3, he and his family moved from Iowa to California. His father opened the second of many bakeries when they moved to California in hopes that it would bring more profit and give him and his family a more comfortable lifestyle. But doing so turned out to do the exact opposite, which meant they had to move back to Iowa. And of course, this happened all as Robert was coming out of his shell in his school life. And once Robert came to the realization that it'd be nice to go back to his hometown and for life to be normal again, he found out they were relocating to Pocahontas, Iowa, not Estherville, which meant a whole new town, a whole new bakery, and a whole new set of strangers. Robert was incredibly shy outside of the comfort of his own home and was bullied at school for his stutter and severe acne. And of course, his shyness and lack of popularity meant he didn't have any close friends. Being the oldest child meant expectations were higher for him than they were for his sibling. He was expected to be awake while the morning sky was still black and the air still cold to go to work with his father. So when kids his age were just starting to make play dates with their friends and go to parks for fun, Robert was expected to carry the weight of a working adult. He was given all the tedious tasks that a young man such as himself could be trusted to do, such as scrubbing and cleaning all of the ovens from the inside out, wiping down the countertops, mopping the floors, and setting out the rat traps all before school started for the day. And of course, with the weight of the world on his shoulders at such a young age, exhaustion consumed young Robert. He started falling asleep in school, and his grades plummeted. When his father learned of this, he described Robert as lacking discipline, drive, and ambition. But not only was he expected to be up before the rest of the world to work in the bakery, but his father would make him rise even earlier for a lecture on how he completed all of his tasks around the house and in the bakery in a poor manner. And since Robert's father father worked long hours at the bakery, he felt it was important to keep his family's togetherness at the forefront. So the family was expected to eat dinner every night at 6 p.m., and afterwards it was mandatory for them to spend their evenings in their father's company. With the constant stress and abuse Robert endured at the hands of his father, he had zero self-esteem and felt as if he was always walking on eggshells in his dad's company. He feared his father's temper and was always terrified of when the next shoe would drop. And because of this, he began to stutter when speaking. His father would discipline him for it, which only made his stutter worse. By this time, all of his classmates were building lifelong friendships, and here he had not a single friend to his name.
Dad sounds like a control freak.
Oh, yeah. I feel bad for young Robert. Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
I was going to say, it sounds like he had like a nervous tick and it just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
His dad did him no favors.
I was going to say, it also kind of seems like a Disney thing. Like he's cleaning and baking like Cinderella, but then he was in Pocahontas. I'm like, there's like a Disney thing going on here. I was like, this is kind of cool.
I didn't even think of that
Yeah,
doing my
that's kind of
research.
cool.
What? Did you say what year this was? Like what? Like during the time frame? Like what?
Oh, God, let me go back.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. That's what we're here for, right?
Nice going.
So he was born in 1939. So this would be like the 40s.
Okay, yeah, the 40s.
Maybe 50s.
Probably early 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
That's crazy because I remember my dad would tell me when he was a kid, because he grew up on a farm, that they would have to wake up at like 4:30 and tend to like all the cows and get all his chores done before he like went to school. And I don't know, that's crazy to think about. I guess if you grew up on a farm, you don't know any different, but
Was he up like really early?
Yeah, like 4:30.
Okay.
My grandpa would make all the boys get up and do all their chores before they even went to school.
So I guess it wasn't like that uncommon.
Now it's nothing like that.
Shit, right?
Yeah. So I think I left off where I said the family's togetherness was at the forefront of his father's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a
Okay,
company.
just want to make sure I'm in the right spot. So the family was expected to eat dinner together every night at 6 p.m., and afterwards it was mandatory for them to spend their evenings in their father's company. Did I say that yet?
Mm-hmm.
I did?
Yeah, which is a nice recap.
Yeah, good recap.
Oh, I said all this too. Do you want me to keep going?
Sorry, kind of.
It's okay. Do you want me to keep going? Because I said all this too.
Yeah, keep going.
With the constant stress and abuse Robert endured at the hands of his father, he had zero self-esteem and felt as if he was always walking on eggshells in his dad's company. Said this. He feared his father's temper and was always terrified of when the next shoe would drop. I said this. And because of this, he began to stutter when speaking. I also said this. His father would discipline him for it, which only made his stutter worse.
Yes.
I said this. I think this is where we left off now.
Sorry.
By this time, all of his classmates were building lifelong friendships, and here he had not a single friend to his name. I think I said this as well. Maybe. The onset of puberty didn't help matters either. His face had become masked with severe acne, and as we know, kids are mean, and he was made fun of profusely in the halls of school. Girls around school even went as far to say that it would be their worst nightmare if he were to ask them out. Yeah, I do feel bad for him, but I don't feel
for this.
bad.
I was going to say this part.
I know
Yes.
what he did.
Once you know what he does, yeah, it's different.
His father viewed his lack of popularity as yet another failure of Robert's.
Oh, come on.
He had no friends, no girlfriend, no interests or hobbies in which he excelled. Robert was growing up to be a nobody, and that was something his overbearing father was not okay with. After Robert's father consulted with co-workers and other visitors of the bakery about how pathetic and unlikable his son was.
I think he's projecting here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. He came to the conclusion that it was his duty to make a man of Robert, which in return would also make him worthy of a woman's attention.
Dude, this dad is like a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
It's like just because you hate your life, you're gonna take it out on your son.
Well, he wanted his son to be everything that he wasn't.
Yeah,
I was
that's
gonna
what it
say, I
sounds
think
like,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I didn't achieve anything besides this bakery.
and you're going to do better than me, but I'm going to be a dick telling you.
Right.
Nothing like
how you
having
need to
faith
be.
in your
Or
child.
he was bullied and now he's like, now I'm in control. And
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
okay.
for real. I bet that's what happened.
Very well could be the case. So when the opportunity was right, Robert's father did the unthinkable. He let someone else open the bakery so that he could wake Robert up at 5 a.m. and gather into a neighbor's truck to head out into the woods for a day of hunting. He thought for sure that teaching Robert how to hunt and kill would teach him how to be independent and instill other manly virtues that he felt his son was sorely lacking.
I don't
And
agree.
here we go.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. Like, you're not a boy. I mean, you're just a boy. You're not a man. So let's go kill something and maybe I don't know. I don't want to hate on anyone that like that. I know a lot of people, especially up north, like that's how they bond with their children. That's completely fine. But like the way he's coming across of it,
And his motive behind it. He's
Yeah,
not
his
doing
mo-
it to
yeah,
be
that's-
close
that's-
with his
Right.
son.
that's not
Yeah, that's
right.
not the whole point.
like I have no problem. Like it's fine if you have a relationship with your father that like your thing is to go hunting. Like that's completely normal.
Oh, yeah.
But to be
But
like,
not like
I want to make
this.
a man out of you, so let's go kill something.
I mean, and even still, that is normal. But just because his father's a piece of shit, it's not normal, you
Yeah.
know? So, because even still, like, there are parents that are like, oh, I want to make, like, I don't want my son to be a pussy or whatever. I want him
Yeah,
to
that's-
do manly
that's
things.
fine.
And that's fine. But this guy's not okay.
Yeah, when
you
your
know?
dad,
Yeah.
my dad talks shit about me behind my back all the time, and now he wants to go hunting. I don't know if this is a good idea.
Right.
My dad wanted me to be a doctor, and Robert's dad clearly wants him to be a murderer because he's basically forcing him, teaching him how to do it.
Right. So when they first all got together in the truck, his dad thought Robert was doomed from the start. Robert was half the size of the other rambunctious teenagers sitting in the back, and while they joked and babbled amongst each other, Robert just stared out the window in silence, awkwardly.
Which
What-
is fine. I mean, some kids are shy.
Right.
Well, plus he didn't even know he was doing this.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
his dad woke
that's
him up,
true.
and he's like, "Here you are in a bus full of, a truck full of kids. You don't
Right.
know."
Yeah.
When they made it to the woods, however, Robert's eyes widened when he saw the gun rack rolled out. Finally, he was showing some sort of emotion. When he reached his hand out to touch one of the rifles, another dad smacked his hand away and insisted all the boys be taught some fire safety prior to venturing out into the woods.
Finally, something that makes sense in the story.
Right. Something good. Robert held onto every word, taking it all in, memorizing every detail of every instruction as if he hadn't been interested in anything as much as he was this. By the time the other teenagers were allowed to even pick up a rifle, Robert was already steps ahead of them, oiling the moving parts and looking the gun over for any wear. When the others were joking and messing around with the guns, Robert was sighting through the scope, tracing the flight of birds, the movement of squirrels in the trees. And the movement of squirrels in the trees. His peers were there to have a good time, but Robert, he was there to hunt. When the hunting party divided into groups, those who were more serious and those who were only along for the ride, Robert found himself among the group of the more avid hunters. For the first time in his life, being separated from his peers didn't seem like a punishment. It made him feel special. He didn't get a kill that day, but almost all the adults in his party said they'd be happy if he were to join in on the action next time they went out. Robert's father didn't take much to hunting, so this is where their paths diverged.
If
Okay.
his dad wasn't into hunting, why the hell did he take him hunting?
Well, he was talking to his coworkers
And they
and
suggested
random
it, or-
people at the bakery. So I don't know if it's customers or like vendors, people, I don't know. But they probably suggested.
Yeah, that just seems strange.
Yeah,
to me,
because
though.
he had
Like,
no interest in it.
Usually, if the father's into it, that's when they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring my son out to go hunting." But the dad's
That's
like,
when it's normal.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I don't even like hunting, but maybe if you
I
kill
feel like he thought
something-
his son was such a lost cause. He's probably like, "Well, my son's not much of a man. What do you recommend?" And they're probably like,
Right.
the first thing that comes to mind: sports, hunting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because they probably did it with their son
Yeah,
because there were
right.
other kids.
And that's like the norm,
Right.
or should be. But
Yeah.
we're probably gonna find out it's not
It's
the
just,
norm.
it was
here.
just I don't know. It'd be weird. Like if okay,
Yeah, it would make sense if his dad
Yeah.
actually
Yes,
had
right,
his
if-
interest
right.
if I
in
was
it.
at work and one of the guys was like, because I'm not a hunter, I never really got into. I've gone a few times, but it just really wasn't for me. If someone like, if when our son gets older and it's like, okay, like it's about time to like he learns some, some man skills. He's at that age, and they're like, "Do you want to go hunting?" I'd be like, "Nah, like I'm good. I'm really not into it. Like, maybe I'll have them start turning wrenches with me or something." But like, I wouldn't do something with my son if I wasn't into it as well.
Right.
unless he confronted me first and was like, "Hey, Dad,
Right.
I'm
And
really
wanna go hunting."
even then,
Yeah.
we know people
Yeah.
who would like hunting.
Yeah, if he was like,
So we'd
Dad,
be like,
I'm-
okay, yeah, maybe, your uncle or whoever will
Yeah.
take you. I'm not into that,
Yeah.
but we will.
Yeah, like, Dad, I want to
And
go
I'll
hunt.
go
Yeah,
with,
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
that's,
right.
But to just be like, I hate hunting, let's take him hunt. That's just that's weird to me.
I hate
Well,
hunting.
the thing is,
Let's
I don't
go.
even know if Robert's father even tried hunting prior
That's
because he just found out he didn't like it.
I don't.
That's why.
Yeah.
I
make
feel like
sense?
he never went until that
Yeah.
point, but.
That's weird to me.
It is weird. Yeah, I know it is. So now, instead of rising early to follow in his father's footsteps on the weekends, Robert would awake with a newfound spring to his step and something to look forward to. He'd go out every Saturday with the local hunters, where they would teach young Robert how to improve his skills, and on the weeknights when his father came home from work demanding dinner, more often than not, Robert wasn't there. He'd be at the shooting range working to improve his technique. It wouldn't be long before the bread that Robert's father brought home was accompanied by meat that Robert harvested with his own two hands. Not long after his initial awakening to the world of hunting, he brought home medals from the range for his marksmanship. Upon achieving all the medals he did, other hunters claimed that exclusively using a rifle would become boring for young Robert now that he was an expert in shooting, so they recommended he learn how to use a bow and arrow.
Okay.
But they were wrong. Robert never grew tired of hunting. Killing never grew old, no matter the weapon of choice. Hunting was his passion, and it gave him a reason to live. He hated his peers and his father and anything going on in his day-to-day life that didn't have anything to do with the hunt. Hunting was his happy place, his reason for life, and he took part in it as often as he could. He truly lived for the hunt. As Robert hit his teenage years at full swing and romance started to become an interest, his status as social pariah prevented him from having an outlet for all his hormonal energy. Girls not only rejected him, they were actively repulsed by him. No matter the fact that these young girls' fathers thought Robert was a good kid and on track to inherit a promising life, they still didn't like him. Like, the girls wanted nothing to do with him. When you're that young, attraction is only about looks and personality, not financial security. And as far as the girls were concerned, Robert didn't have a personality and lacked attractiveness.
Yeah, to check us when you're in high school, you're not looking about, is he going to have money?
Yeah, is he
Right.
going to
Or
be my
she.
husband? You're not really thinking that
Yeah.
far
Well,
along.
yeah, the dads are, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But when you're a teenager, it's all about hormones.
So you guys
Exactly.
sat down in your first date when you're in high school and be like, so what's your 401k plan look like?
I feel like that would have been me.
Yeah,
So
right?
how much are you putting away? Are you working yet? Is it 6 or 7%?
Yeah.
I just want popcorn and candy in the movie.
Are you aware of how much that costs?
She's the whole spreadsheet.
We'll have a quick PowerPoint real quick before we start this date.
And then a Venn diagram. Okay, do you really want this? Like, where does
Yeah.
it fit into this?
I don't think this is going to work out. Your 10-year plan doesn't match up to mine.
Hey, if kids thought like that, they'd be a lot better off, I think.
That's true. No, it's true. Robert's father was adamant that he needed a girlfriend to prove to him that he was a man. His father was obsessive over the fact that Robert was single.
I think we should just give the dad the boot. Honestly, this
For
guy's
real.
just throw him away. I'm done with this guy. I'm done with this guy.
The kid finally gets a hobby, and the dad's still not
He's
happy.
still not happy.
Yeah.
He's never, no matter what he does, it's not good enough.
So you don't have a girlfriend yet? Pussy.
I think
know,
he was
it's
feeling
like-
threatened too, because
Yeah.
he was bringing home the meat and stuff, and he's just like, "Oh no,
maybe.
oh
I
no,
didn't think that
now I'm
either.
threatened."
Robert should be like, hey, I'm bringing home the beef. The beef.
Well,
The meat.
I mean,
The meat. What are you bringing home?
Bread?
Donuts?
Yeah,
Donuts,
donuts
huh?
and
Donut
bread.
boy? You bringing home the donuts?
Yeah, he could have totally flipped the switch here.
hey, and maybe that was something, yeah.
You go bake me a cake, bitch.
Okay. Oh my god.
Despite the fact that Robert hated his father, he wanted his approval more than anything else. Some days Robert came close when he'd come home with a medal or an award that he received because of his hunting skills, but close wasn't enough for Robert. He wanted his father's full approval. Unfortunately, this wasn't something Robert would ever obtain. In order for him to receive his father's approval, he would have to comply with everything he was asked without complaint or question. He was required to have complete servitude and obedience. All other employees were not treated the same as Robert when he was at work. He was held at a much higher standard. When Robert didn't comply with his father's needs and wants of him, he would bully and abuse him. And when Robert did comply with his father's ask, he looked down on him and called him pathetic.
Jesus Christ. Like, what does this dad want?
I know.
You can't win with them.
No, there was no
Please throw him
winning
away.
for poor Robert.
Please
Feel
throw this
bad
man
for this
away.
dude.
I know.
Like,
I
you know
know.
how there's other cases where it's like, okay, this guy's just a pity party. He's trying to, like, justify for killing people. It's like, yeah, what he did, I don't know what he did yet, but obviously it's about murder. We wouldn't be
You'll find
covering
out
his
next
case.
episode.
But it's like,
But
I
I just wanted to
kind
give
of
his
like...
background.
So what you're saying is
Done
if his first victim's his dad, we're not really blaming him here.
Exactly.
I mean,
Oh.
honestly.
Yeah, they're in a court. Your first person was your dad? Yeah,
Never mind, you're good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no.
You could get out of
Yeah,
jail.
one
free
look
card.
at him.
You're good.
Yeah, we'll play Monopoly.
You're
We'll get
good.
out of jail free card right now.
His work and home life were both under his father's control. The only time he had to himself where he was in control was when he was hunting and at the range. But after no time at all, his alone time became more and more a thing of the past.
He's just thinking about his dad the entire time he's hunting, like as a target.
Clean
I
as God.
would.
He's like,
I would.
Cake boy sounds good.
Probably not,
Die.
actually.
And his dad's like, I just got the best cake ribbon. And he's like, this guy's bringing home medals and stuff.
Yeah, for his kills
Best cake ribbon.
and
Best
shooting.
cake decorator. I don't know. I'm sure it's a thing.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm pathetic, Dad. Okay, all right, cake boy, you sound pretty pathetic.
His father required him to work more hours at the bakery than any other employee, and also forced him to take on the household chores and more. So now he's just giving him less alone time to do what he's actually enjoying because he's a dick.
No wonder he had a breakdown then. I mean, seriously, if you don't get a single minute to yourself, you're constantly just doing schoolwork, working, taking care of the family, taking care of the bakery.
Yeah.
No wonder this guy lost his
Yeah, no
crap.
wonder why he had a fucking stutter.
Exactly.
And a mental breakdown
Yeah.
or whatever is
Exactly.
causing him to do this. No wonder.
There's usually a reason. The day Robert turned 18 and it was legal for him to leave home, he did just that. He moved out of the family home and quit the family business simultaneously. In 1957, the year he freed his dad's powerful grip, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Reserve, where he became a skilled marksman. He only served 1 year before being discharged. He did return back home to Pocahontas to live with his parents after his time in the reserves temporarily. He had no intent of staying there long.
That sucks. He only went to reserves. Like, imagine if he would have went to, like, because reserves, it's like you're not active. Like, you
Right.
still go through all the training. Like, it would have probably been beneficial if he just would have signed up for completely, like, for the full active duty. Like, I wonder if his life would have been different because obviously he's a good marksman, so he would have fit right into infantry. I wonder if, like, he stayed and made a career in the military of this, like, what he did never would have happened then.
Yeah, right? It's something to think about.
This makes me think, too, of what you said last week, too. Like, all of your people you do have been in the military. That's
Yes.
crazy. Like, all of them have
I
been
know.
somehow involved. That's weird.
It's very odd. He'd finally aged out of his acne problem, but his face would be scarred for the rest of his life. And while his stutter persisted, he'd become better at keeping his cool and thus keeping the stutter under control, but still there. He did go back to work at the bakery with his father, but the discipline he now had due to his time in the army, combined with his experiences, meant that he was no longer reliant on his father's guidance or drive. He fell into a normal routine and no longer sought the approval of his father. His father didn't know how to handle the change in Robert's persona, so he often gave him the silent treatment. Eventually, Robert found a job at the local police academy as an assistant drill instructor. This new position would pay him enough to move out of the family home and start his own life. After Robert clawed his way out of his father's shadow and started to build a life for himself in his one-bedroom apartment, he still was unhappy, and the rage he felt still hadn't subsided. Before Robert left for the army, he couldn't get the time of day out of any of the girls in town. They all knew him as a pathetic, pimply-faced boy who stuttered from their time together at school. But in his time away, with the passing of years, a whole new batch of dateable young women had started to emerge who had no idea who he was. He used their lack of knowledge of him to his advantage. He knew girls liked a man in uniform, and he was being praised for his time in the military around town. And when it came to girls who were younger than he wasn't nervous at all to confront them. In 1960, he fell in love and proposed to a local girl. He was 21 years old when he married a 17-year-old with the family's consent. Her family viewed Robert as a great fit for their daughter.
I got a feeling they probably changed their mind on that one.
That's a little. I get it, he's got low self-esteem, but to like start going after.
That's such a weird gap too. 17 versus 21. I don't know. That's weird.
I don't think that's.
I'm not feeling this.
Yeah,
I'm
not
uncomfy.
feeling this anymore. I don't know if I like this dude anymore.
As soon as you said younger girls, I was like, how young are we talking?
That's exactly in my mind. I was like,
I figured, because I was thinking the same thing as I read.
Like, they don't like me. Maybe the new batch of high school girls will. Like,
And that's
dude,
the thing, too.
aren't you?
17 is such an impressionable age, too. So I feel like,
Yeah.
he definitely is taking advantage of that. And the
Oh,
family
for sure.
should never have been okay with that.
No.
Yeah. It makes me think of that movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, Dazed and Confused, where he's like, I stay the same age. Or no, they stay the same age and I just keep on getting older. I don't know how the fuck it goes. But he's talking about like high school girls.
Yeah.
He's got like the same round. Yeah, this is weird to me.
Creepy.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
When they got married, she moved into Robert's apartment. He expected all of his old resentments to fade away as they settled into married life. But to his shock, it was only getting worse.
Well, she's a child, so.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not getting better, so.
Yeah.
Just because of that.
I just don't understand. She doesn't know anything about 401ks or nothing.
Exactly.
Do I need to bring out the PowerPoint again? Come on.
All she wants is candy at the movie theater.
I tried to show her the spreadsheet. She has no idea what she's looking at.
His stutter began to resurface more and more as his fear and frustration escalated as well. He now had the life he'd always dreamed about, and he hated it. Everything he was told by his father about how having a woman to love would make his life better only seemed to make it worse.
Well, maybe you should have got a woman then instead of a child.
Maybe.
Just a hunch.
Every time he looked at his pretty wife that was meant to cure him but couldn't, he'd grown increasingly furious. In his mind, he had been portrayed over and over again throughout his entire life. By his father, by the school in which he attended, by the kids that should have been his friends, and now his wife was betraying him too. The one person who was meant to undo all of the heartache in his life wasn't undoing anything. She obviously knew how. If she didn't, he wouldn't have married her in the first place. She was withholding the cure in spite.
What is she, Dr. Phil? I mean,
exactly.
come on.
And I wrote, he obviously has some deep-rooted issues here.
He's expecting a lot of us out of a 17-year-old or any person for that matter that doesn't know his background
Something's
whatsoever.
not right. Something's not clicking up there.
It's just,
He's basically set her up to fail in this marriage, 100%.
Yes. Yeah. So more frequently than he'd like in their time being married, one of his police buddies would come to his front door and tell him to cool it. Now remember, this was the 60s, so progress was being taken at this point to end marital abuse, but beating your wife was considered to be one of the perks of being a husband during this time period.
What?
Yeah.
well, we're married now. I can start beating her.
Yeah, I guess.
Interesting. Okay. And his cop friends covered it up for him, or?
Well, no, his cop, they would just come and be like, hey, you need to stop writing complaints.
Okay.
Like, you need to.
Okay.
Like,
Right.
cool it, dude.
Yeah, let's not arrest you, but as long as you promise to keep it down.
Well, they didn't take it seriously. I feel like they
Yeah.
still don't.
No.
Well,
It's better than
Not
it
if you're a
was.
cop. Not if you're a cop.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so. I think they get away with a lot of stuff.
I think so, too. So now his pretty wife was covered in bruises that he'd inflicted upon her. The house was never kept to his standards. She couldn't cook a meal without burning or over-seasoning it.
He's become his dad.
Exactly.
I was just thinking that
He's become his freaking dad.
I thought immediately. So nothing she did was ever done correctly in his eyes.
His
Just
child wife is now Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
If
god.
you can't beat him, join him. Like,
What a turn of events.
I'm gonna
I
become the fucking biscuit bitch like my dad was. I'm gonna open a bakery and be pissed off at everyone. And
Isn't that crazy?
I was not expecting. I mean, I kind of, but not really. But wow.
yeah, I
Because
wasn't.
it's like-
I
What
wasn't
a turn.
expecting it at all.
Because it's like we want to be better than our parents.
Yeah,
But
right.
There's some people that maybe they don't even notice.
Or they
became
hate their parents so much that they become them. Yeah.
And they don't realize they are. Mm-hmm. They don't see it. So now she wouldn't even kiss him without him having to grab her by the hair.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fuck that. That escalated
yeah,
quickly.
wow.
She wouldn't reach out for him in the dark of night anymore. She only
Can't blame
tolerated
her.
his right. She only tolerated his touch until he was done having his way with her, and then she'd roll away from him. All the kind and loving things she did for him when they were first married were a thing of the past.
I wonder why.
Right.
Yeah.
You're abusing me. You clearly don't
Beat the
care
shit
about
out of me. I don't
Yeah.
really want to cook your breakfast anymore.
Right.
And just using her for sexual intimacy.
Exactly.
When he wants to.
Yeah.
Sure, they lived under the same roof, but they didn't particularly like one another. So now, once again, in his mind, he lived in a world that filled him with rage, and in the darkness, he began to spiral deeper and deeper into madness.
Did you get a stutter again?
He started to have thoughts of vengeance on everyone who would ever wronged him, and these thoughts consumed him.
Oh God.
Not good.
No.
This isn't good.
Don't they call that like mania or something?
Maybe.
I'm just
I
trying to
could
figure
see
out
it,
who the
yeah.
first victim's going to be, either the wife or the dad.
So
Oh,
now,
definitely the wife.
So now at this point, he started to have dreams that he was in the woods stalking his prey, and when he'd look down the sights of his rifle, there would be a girl that had turned him down in the past, laughing at him, rejecting him, the way his wife was rejecting him now. This was in a dream. His stutter came back at full force, making it almost impossible for him to do his job. He'd become the subject of mockery among students at the police academy. And when he was at home, his wife would giggle at his stutter when he wasn't able to force words out. She'd giggle, and he made sure he'd shut her the hell up.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's not funny, but I could just see her laughing at him.
I mean,
And the
would.
thing is, too, I think it's such a
not like he doesn't deserve it.
This is such a crap comparison to the fact that he's like, oh, I get like the girls rejecting him and making fun of him, but his wife was only rejecting him and not interested because of how he was treating her. It's
Yeah,
not like she was
yeah.
initially rejecting him.
Exactly.
She did not like him because he became an asshole.
right, because he's different than who she married.
But
Yeah.
in his mind, it's everyone else's fault.
Yeah, right. I feel like he's a little bit of a narcissist here.
Yeah, a little, eh?
Yeah, he's not good. Not a good human. So in his mind, there was only one way out of this that made sense to him. He had to get revenge so he could finally move on. He had to right some of the wrongs that had been done to him so that he could start building his life on a solid foundation instead of being swallowed whole by quicksand beneath him.
Didn't he do this the first time when he left? Remember he left the home because he wanted to start all over?
Yeah, when he went to the army.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
but
like
he's only gone for a
It
year.
just seems like every time things get tough, he's like, I gotta run away and restart. Like I'm
Or
not
I
gonna
gotta do something
Yeah,
big
I'm not gonna
here.
deal with my
Yeah.
problems. I'm just gonna run away.
So are we taking predictions on what the one thing he thinks he needs to do to fix it?
Well,
I was going to say therapy, but that's clearly not what's happening.
I know what happened, so you guys.
he's
it's on you.
gotta bake a cake.
I was gonna say, okay. I was gonna say
Clearly.
therapy or couples counseling clearly being removed from the table because that's not happening here. I guess I'm taking back my original.
I think that's what's going on is far beyond what
Oh, I know.
couples therapy can do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you beat her? Oh, that's not bad. How many times? Like, I don't know.
Did you bake her a cake after?
Like a couple times a day? Ah, no, that's okay. Yeah, just bake her a cake and then like everything.
This guy is just sick. I literally can't.
You're gonna hate next episode.
I already do.
Yeah, me too. And I already know what happened, and I hate it. So now Robert is starting to realize that the horrible childhood he had lived through is to blame for his sadistic behavior and feelings of turmoil. While others tried to suggest that he make peace with his past, Robert fully intended to make war instead.
Yeah, vengeance
Yeah.
is the best, right?
Now you'd think his father would be the target, right?
That's what I thought.
That seems like the
Yes,
obvious here.
that's what I thought.
Sure sounds
'Cause that's
like
where it
it.
all
Right.
started.
Yeah.
But no. On December 7th, the same year he got married, he was arrested for burning down a school bus garage that belonged to the local high school a week prior. And when a friend turned him in, he was sentenced to 3 years in Anamosa State Penitentiary.
That was his like I'm pissed.
That was his comeback. Now, okay. Because I was like, why?
So did he get out in 6 months for good behavior, like
He
everybody
does get
else?
out for good behavior, but before we
There
get
we
there.
go.
I'm pissed.
Now from the hang on. So now from the outside looking in, why would his big comeback be burning down a school bus garage?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
How is
like,
that even
why?
relevant?
If you're anything like me, I was wondering the exact same thing. The school bus was the focal point for the bullying and misery that he'd gone through during his time in school. He rode it to school every morning, and every morning he was refused a seat when he'd ask if he could sit next to someone. No one could bear to be that close to him. They didn't want to be tainted by associating with a greasy, stuttering nobody. Whoever did end up sitting next to him would criticize or ignore him with all their might, even enough so that anyone else on the bus who'd seen them sitting next to each other would know it was against their will.
Yo, did he go to, like, to the rudest fucking school in the world or something? Like,
And I think a lot of this is internally in his mind. He's
Yeah.
making it worse than it
Yeah,
actually
because, like,
is.
I
do
I
believe
get
that.
kids can be mean, but I don't, like, every person you went to school with was a fucking asshole to you. I can't imagine
I think-
that.
and
I can
yeah.
see it, but I think...
He
Not to this-
internalized a lot of his
yeah,
dad's
but not,
stuff,
but
too.
not to this extent, though.
Yeah. I think he... Yeah.
She just-
I'm sure his life, he was made fun of. I'm sure people were fucking dicks to him.
You just imagine, like, the school bus driver coming in the next day and be like, yo, what the fuck?
Like, oh, you mean 'cause it was burned down?
Yeah, 'cause what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know what? Is that
She's like, so am I off today?
It's like,
or?
do I have off? I know who did it. It's that pimply bitch kid. I bet.
Oh my God.
I guess everyone's an asshole.
I mean, it did take a week for them to figure it out, so...
It took him until they realized that it was.
Did he leave a cake behind?
So they knew who it was.
Oh, okay.
So they knew- yeah.
I thought you meant to say it took a week for they realized that the
Oh,
school
no, they
buses were
realized it. It
burnt.
just took a week to identify it was him.
Like, was it summer or like?
So Robert lived the same horrible sense of rejection over and over, twice a day, 5 days a week, for 12 long years. So that's why he burned down the bus garage.
That's a weird fucking.
So,
I mean, I guess it makes sense because it's where it all started in his mind.
Yeah,
Right.
But to everybody else, it would be his dad at home.
And it makes
if he
no
burned his
sense.
own
Like, to a
childhood
normal
home
person.
down, that would make sense than
like,
burning
in-
his house
in
down.
Theory,
with his parents inside.
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah.
take the mom out.
Yeah, so the mom seems all right.
Like
But
in-
we didn't hear much about her.
like in theory, it makes sense, but to be like, oh, I got picked on. I'm gonna burn down the Walgreens down the road from my house.
I bought a pack of gum there once.
It wasn't on sale. It wasn't on sale, so I got mad. Like,
All right. Now, during his sentence, he and his wife did get divorced.
Oh, thank God. So she's still alive at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
After serving only 20 months, he was released because of good behavior.
There it is, folks.
Despite the fact that he'd been diagnosed as having an infantile personality, manic depression, and as having periodic schizophrenic episodes.
what are you in for jail for? I burned down buses.
The bus house.
The bus house. Why?
Garage.
My childhood.
Bus garage.
I mean, what's the difference, honestly?
Why'd you do it? My childhood sucked.
And you're how old now at this point? 21, 22?
Do you get a life?
I'm just
Get
glad the
fuck
wife
over
left
it.
him.
Get a
Thank
fucking
God.
hobby.
Right?
Go hunting again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because I know divorce was kind of a taboo in those days,
Yeah, it
too.
That's
was,
true.
yeah.
Especially with the church and everything. So I'm just glad that she got out of that.
Yeah, me too. The psychiatrist even gave him medication to take upon his release, but he wasn't required by court order to actually take it.
What's the point of giving it to him then?
I feel like
Yeah.
that should have been a given.
I think it should have been something that was
Mandated,
required.
yeah.
Upon his release, Robert pretended he wasn't diagnosed with any mental illness. He was able to live with being labeled as an ex-convict, but mentally unwell wasn't something he was willing to share with the world. Everywhere Robert went in Pocahontas, he encountered people who knew him, individuals who had tormented him during his childhood, schoolmates, teachers, family members, and strangers who had learned about his wrongdoings and looked down on him with judgment. Robert took the situation as a sign for him to skip town.
I was gonna say, bro, it sounds like he needs to fucking like leave his hometown and
Yeah.
go somewhere else.
He was never going to be able to move on and live a normal life if he stayed there. He'd never be able to escape the swirling vortex of his past unless he fled from there and fled fast.
Yeah.
The police academy obviously wasn't going to take an ex-convict for them to work there. I have this worded weird. That's really strange. Sorry. So they weren't going to let him work there as an ex-convict.
So that makes sense.
So
to me.
Robert struggled to make ends meet. Even though he might have been able to go back to working at his father's bakery, his father never extended the invitation, and Robert felt he hadn't sunk low enough to even ask or beg his father for his job back.
It would probably be for the best if he didn't go work for his father again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead, he did what most criminals do after a period of being incarcerated. He turned to illegal avenues. Over the next few years that followed, he was arrested multiple times for petty theft, serving short prison sentences each time, which repeatedly pushed back his efforts of leaving town. Until one day, he met Darla Hendrickson, one of them, who was a very religious young woman who often confided to others in her prayer circle that she could hear the voice of God speaking to her, and it seemed he saw everything in Robert that the rest of the world did not. So she put her trust in Robert due to his boyish attributes, and to Robert's surprise, he became to trust her too. He started attending church at her command, and while the other members of the congregation weren't pleased to have a man such as him amongst them, Darla was quick to remind them that it's not anyone's place to judge others, and forgiveness was a core belief of their faith. Most of the people Robert met through Darla had no intent of forgiving him, but he soon came to the realization that he didn't need their forgiveness, and Darla was enough for him. To her delight, Robert started to turn his life around, and once his life was back in order, he proposed, and Darla accepted.
This is not going to end well.
No, just...
In 1963, Robert and Darla were wed. They had a smaller, more intimate ceremony than the one of Robert's first marriage. Many people felt that Darla was making a terrible mistake in putting her trust in this man.
I would think the same thing.
I'm gonna side with these people here.
Yeah.
Yes. After all, he was a felon.
Well, I mean, if it's a small town, they know him. Obviously, they know about his past with his first wife.
Yeah.
You think, and I don't know, she doesn't know, but you think he makes it sound like everyone in town knows everyone's business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you would think that she would.
They know you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So he was a felon, but he also had a cold demeanor and a strange stutter that didn't work in his favor with the congregation. They thought something was wrong with him.
The church not being judgmental? No way.
Right? They're some of the most judgmental people I know. For quite some time, Darla lived a tolerable life with Robert. Robert found work in another bakery in town where he worked behind the scenes and did the physical work, not having to deal with the customers, which is probably a good thing. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want him dealing with the customers.
Yeah, probably we're gonna put you in a bag.
Right. It was during his time employed there that he discovered he actually enjoyed the profession that his father had forced upon him, as long as his father wasn't leaning over his shoulders while he did it.
And he's not forced into it too. That was his choice.
And he actually likes it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Take a sip of water.
I will say too, like, I know some felons and they're like the nicest people ever. It's like, but this guy, he's got the crap past to go with it. He has no intent of changing. No. I don't know. I'm not trusting this. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't either. I know what happens and I don't like it. Darla was nothing like his first wife. If Robert ever tried to give her even the slightest bit of a hard time, she stood up to him and made it abundantly clear from the get-go that at the first sign he might become violent and raise a hand to her, she'd be gone.
Okay, Darla.
Yeah.
You bad bee. I love it.
I like her.
Get it, girl.
Anytime he tried to plummet downward into his rage's bits, Darla was there to drag him out of them, forcing him to help out at the church, mow the lawn, or go hunting with his friends as a way to distract himself. She actively encouraged Robert to not only devote his life to hard work, as his father had always tried to get him to do, but to fill his free time with fun activities. The two were a good match, in as much as anyone could be for Robert. Her constantly pushing him to be a better version of himself rather than obtain the standards set by his father was a big part of that. Over the next 3 years that followed, things went better than anyone could have hoped. They had 2 beautiful, healthy children, and they were raising them right.
Okay.
They attended church every Sunday as a family. In fact, Darla's only demand was that they continued to attend church every Sunday, even if Robert had a weekend getaway out hunting with his friends. He was expected to be back home in time for church that Sunday regardless. But aside from that, she let Robert come and go as he pleased, and she never hounded him with questions as to where he'd been or what took him so long to come home. As long as he came back home to her, that's all she cared about. Darla worked with mentally disabled children by tutoring and assisting them. She even built herself a sizable enough client base in Pocahontas, which meant Robert didn't have a need to even work at all if he didn't want to.
Oh, wow.
Okay, money bags. I
Yeah,
love it.
right?
But Robert enjoyed his time being kept busy, and it also gave him a sense of purpose. So he continued working at the bakery. The extra money coming into the household was nice, and Darla never asked for a penny of it.
Okay.
Despite everything, she could still see how unhappy Robert was, even though he was content with his life. He kept busy, which in turn kept his dark thoughts in check, but they were still there, just beneath the surface, waiting for the slightest opportunity to come out and consume him. Anytime someone spotted him out in public and whispered, she could feel him tense up. Every time someone would laugh, he'd duck his head as if they were laughing at him. Despite all the good things going on in his life, the darkness still hung over him like a dark canopy.
Dude, it sounds like he's got, like, the case of, like, paranoia or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, he's
like,
definitely paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Together, they saved up enough money for them to start a new life elsewhere, away from his past, his family, and everything that had brought misery upon him. There was a new gold rush about to begin in Alaska. A trans-Alaskan oil pipeline had been approved by Congress, and anybody who was anybody was rushing to get their share of the money that would soon be flooding through the state. Everyone who had some experience in construction was moving there. Every town surrounding the pipeline would soon be booming within a couple of months, and with the construction crews, their families would follow. Drug dealers, prostitutes, and all others who fit the bill for individuals that were attracted to people who suddenly came into more money than they knew what to do with would follow suit too. Given the sudden growth in population, Alaska would now need people like Robert and Darla for their survival. Bakers to feed their families and caregivers to help raise the children that would struggle in a traditional school environment would be needed now more than ever. The pipeline represented a hopeful future for their family. More importantly than all that, though, was the fact that Alaska was a place where no one would be asking too many questions about anyone's past. This was the kind of place ex-convicts such as Hansen dreamt of, where their past didn't matter all that much and who they were in that moment, right then and there. That's all that truly mattered. In Alaska, no one would care that Robert set fire to a bus garage and robbed a few folks. Or that he had a horrible stutter and an overbearing father during his years in school. This was their one opportunity to leave all that stuff in the past and start anew.
I'm just picturing, like, the fucking...
Stop it.
All right, you're still, like, you have to, like, apply to move to Alaska. And, like, one of the questions is, like, do you have any history of birding buses?
He's like, dang it, I
And he's
figured
just
out.
like, shit, dude, I can't even move to Alaska.
I can't. Oh, man. This was Robert's chance for a fresh start. And the snow where they'd move would assist in a baptism of Robert. Oh, God.
Is there a bus involved, or what's going on over there?
No. Oh. All his sins would be gone, in the past, forgiven. This piqued Darla's interest just as much as an escape from his grueling past appealed to Robert. Because before leaving Pocahontas, the family sold off almost everything they had to their name and loaded up the rest of their belongings into a plane and never looked back.
I thought you were going to say they loaded
Into a
up
bus.
Into a bus.
Sorry. So that's, yeah.
He's like, one more time for good measure.
Yeah, so they're going to Alaska. So that's
And not by bus.
his upbringing.
by plane.
Yeah, so that's where we're gonna end part 1.
Damn, they bought a plane?
No, I'm
He's a baker. How much money do you think he has?
Well, I mean, he was
You're
all...
skipping way ahead, honey. He buys a bush plane later.
Oh, okay.
You're skipping way ahead. They're just taking a flight out. Oh my god. Oh, I wasn't
Damn, Darla,
expecting
you
it to be funny, but you guys made
No.
it funny.
Damn, darling,
Next
you got
week
that
is not
money
gonna
for
be fun.
planes?
Yeah, okay, so those are my closing thoughts here. I'm obsessed with Darla.
I like her too. She's a
Darla
bad
sounds
bee.
like a G.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with Darla. I'm glad that the first wife was alive and well and left
Yeah,
him.
that's
Yes.
And he didn't kill her yet.
Yeah.
I can see Darla like, bitch, try hitting me.
Well, that's basically what she did. She
Yeah.
made it known that if he even tried, she was out.
Right.
Don't even think about it. I'm
So
out.
don't try her.
I'm a little concerned about the fact that he has 2 kids. I'm worried that I don't know if his mental health passed down to them or how they're going to react to all this or if they're part of the victims. I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
kids part
Yeah.
is freaking me out a little bit. I hope that they're okay.
Yeah, whenever I hear there's kids involved with like
Yeah.
the serial killers
I'm
have
hope-
kids,
I
it's
think
like
they're
ooh.
okay, but I can dive into it more next week. But
I also have always wanted to go to Alaska, so depending
Me
on how
too.
yours
Yeah,
ends
me
makes me
too.
decide if I actually want to or not.
I do too. I want to do the cruise.
I do too. My coworker's going on an
I
Alaska
want to
cruise
go.
soon.
Yeah, so bad. That'd be cool. But yeah. So part 2 is going to be a real travesty. Robert Hansen is sick, and of course we know he will not be using this new opportunity in life to turn things around for himself and his family.
So does he?
That much is a given.
Okay, give us another little clue here. Does he burn down another bus?
No, he upgrades to planes.
Oh, okay, great, awesome.
He's burning down planes now.
He's like, I moved on to bigger and better now that my bougie wife can afford more.
Also no, but yeah.
Pocahontas didn't have lots of planes. They had lots of buses. So now in Alaska, I'm burning down.
Did we go
planes.
through Pocahontas when we went to Iowa? I feel like we did.
I feel like we did too.
I don't remember.
Well, you were in Louisiana. I don't even know where you were.
Mentally not there.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very excited to, see what happens or hear what happens next week.
Next week is bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that people give some commentary on here, like what they think's going to happen. Like,
Yeah,
how are
that'd
we
be kinda
feeling?
cool.
Yeah, like what are you thinking here? Who's going to be the first victim? How do you guys feel about Darla? If we have any Darla haters, get out. This podcast ain't for you. We're Darla's girls.
Yes, I
We're
agree.
Darla's girls.
We
I
are.
love it.
We got jackets and everything.
We need shirts.
Team
We should
Darla.
make shirts that say Darla's girls.
I love
But
it.
I need,
Would you wear it?
I would wear a
He'd
shirt that
wear
says
it,
Darla
yeah,
girls.
for sure.
I've worn a dress before.
All right, so his crimes are only about to get worse.
No comment. Okay.
And I guarantee after you listen next week, you'll be left with some nightmares. But that's it for tonight, Ghoul Crew. Until next week, sweet dreams. Good night.
Peace.
Bye.